We continue our simulated offseason by doing a full mock draft and see who the Sharks pick in the 2025 draft.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at the Reef, also the co-host of Locked On NHL. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network, we cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow along wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. And today we continue our simulated mock offseason by doing a mock draft, because that's the next order of things, right? Is you take care of your home business, then you have the draft, and then you have free agency. So we are going to do a mock draft where we're going to, of course, get caught up on all the moves that we made yesterday. Look at potentially trading up to 19 with the Blues, and then what my final mock draft for the San Jose Sharks look like. So let's get started by, of course, a nice review and kind of setting the table for this draft. So, of course, right, we had some moves that we made yesterday, including trading draft picks away to acquire players, and we also traded a player away to get a draft pick back. So let's start again with who is out. So Henry Thrun got traded in my simulated offseason for a 2025 fifth round pick from the Rangers. That pick ends up being 139. So that's something else to kind of add to the, what the Sharks have here. The Sharks, I also traded for Laurent Brzustewicz from the Chicago Blackhawks. So that was way back that was a seventh round pick. It ended up being pick 210. So kind of near the end of the draft, but still that was a little bit more of a cap dump for, at least my reasoning, a little bit more of a cap dump for Chicago, as they have two young goalies I think that they want to kind of ride with here. So, and for Brzustewicz, who's coming off an injury, right, it's at least you're getting something for him instead of nothing, in Chicago's case in this. So, and of course the big trade was the Mason Marchment trade, where I traded the Sharks third round pick from the Oilers. That's either going to be 95 or 96, depending on what happens later, either tonight or later this week, in game 6 and or 7. So 95, 96, that one went to Dallas. And of course, I also sent a fourth round pick that was the Jets pick originally, pick 124. I sent that to Dallas in exchange for Mason Marchment. So that leaves the Sharks with, at least heading into it, and that leaves them with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 picks in this draft. So they have, according to my offseason, pick number 2 in the first round, pick number 30 in the first round, pick number 33 in the second round, pick number 53 in the second round, pick 115 in the fourth, and they have 2 in the fifth, picks 139 and pick 150. So 7 picks, but nothing after the fifth round, which is fine. Like, it is, especially in this draft, where I think I don't mind not having 6th or 7th round picks in this year's draft. So, when I was doing the mock draft, I used Puckpedia, and I used their draft simulator because it allowed me to easily trade picks and stuff and not have to kind of do the whole kind of dance with it with some of the other mock drafts. And so I used Puckpedia, and I paid for it so I can get the full 7 rounds, et cetera, et cetera. So my gift to you. But like when I kind of first started doing some of these, some players who I think are, and that's the problem with different rankings, right? Some players who are considered, who I think aren't going to be available there, at pick 30 for the Sharks, kept being available there because of their rankings. And the player I'm talking about is Blake Fiddler. And that's a guy who we'll talk more about in the second segment. But he was a player who I was very realistically, like, he's not going to be there for the Sharks at 30 just because of right size, skill, right-handedness, family line of an NHL player. Like, I just don't foresee him being there at 30. And most of the time when I was kind of doing a lot of these mock drafts, he ended up kind of kept coming up to San Jose at 30, and I just didn't feel like it was a fair assessment of what might actually happen. So I ended up in the first round. I ended up using Scott Wheeler's first round mock draft. So he did one on June 9th, so about a week ago, right? Of his first round draft. Of course, I made all the picks for the Sharks, but I used his first round draft because I thought it was going to just be more accurate kind of rankings, and especially in the first round. And after the first round, things are going to open up. And even like mid first round, things are going to open up in this year's draft because so many people have so many guys just ranked differently. And it's, as we've heard from all of our friends who've been on the podcast, right? Everybody says it's such a weird draft class. So yeah, I used his rankings for the first round. Of course, I made my own picks for the Sharks. But spoiler, and like it's pretty like Misa's the pick at number 2 for me, like from San Jose. Like I'm going to pick Misa, and with the knowledge that we have, right, et cetera, et cetera. So I went through and like Misa was my pick at number 2, and we'll get to my actual mocks here in a little bit. But what kind of happened after that was following those mock drafts and kind of seeing what pool of players would be available for San Jose, both at 30 and 33, and then of course as it trickles down to 53 for San Jose. So we've seen just kind of, now that we're out of the combine, right, and we're kind of getting closer and closer to the draft, just that top, like some of the names that have been kind of creeping up, like O'Brien's a guy who's been creeping up, right? And you look at a guy like Martin, who's also a guy who's been creeping up here into the top. Both those guys are top 10 picks in this draft, according to Wheeler. And you see guys kind of falling down, like Jackson Smith, who might have been considered a top 10 pick and the second defenseman off the board. Like, he's the guy who fell a little bit. Victor Eklund goes, at 15, which I'm kind of shocked with Victor Eklund, especially with, I get the size thing, but the dude plays hard and stuff. So, but, and I looked at some of our other, I looked at Steven Ellis, I looked at his mock draft, and I looked at some of it, and I just kind of want to get the mock draft that was, I guess, the freshest, right? And I even looked like the Athletic had a staff one, but then they started making trades midway through it. And again, I was trying to, and yes, there are going to be trades. I didn't want to get too deep in the weeds here, but I wanted to at least have it something to work off of for the Sharks and for me as I did this mock draft, because again, I'm focusing on the Sharks' needs and what the Sharks want and what fits Mike Grier and what he's trying to build here. And that's something, like players that I would probably go for, maybe smaller scoring players. I'm just like, I don't think that's a Mike Grier type of guy, right? And again, we know Mike Grier, he's going to draft skilled players, but if it comes down to, if it came down to basically a tiebreaker type of scenario, I went with a guy who I think Mike Grier would be more interested, right? Kind of heavier players, guys who have maybe a little bit more like that motor or versatility, or again, instead of maybe just that, like, this guy can score a bunch. I tried to, again, keep my Mike Grier hat on with this. And as I was doing this, so we're going to get to my final mock, my mock draft, but I did want to discuss trading up to 19, because it is something I brought up here on the podcast, right? And focusing on what happens if the Sharks package picks to move up to 19. And I just wanted to kind of explore what happened there and how after doing it, I'm not a big fan of it. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I like the in-shell variety. I like hearing that little crack. It's like a little snack meditation. But if you like the no-shell ones, I'm not going to shell shame you. They have plenty of amazing flavors to choose from, and they all provide at least 9 essential amino acids. And the great thing, throw a bag in, like your work bag, or throw one at your desk right around 2:30. Get that snacky feeling. They got you covered until dinner time. So get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right. Do want to thank you, of course, for making it Locked On Sharks your first listen. If you haven't yet, perfect time to subscribe. We're continuing our simulated off season, right? Yesterday we kind of took care of business at home, made some trades. Today we're doing the full mock draft. Tomorrow's free agency day, and I'm still tweaking and stuff because we continue to get more news about who may be available, who may not be available. I'm trying to kind of keep it as fresh as possible. And then on Thursday, we will do kind of a nice recap, look at where kind of more of the future and where the Sharks are at, and kind of, as we look at, again, how do I think Mike Grier tries to approach this bad boy. So make sure you follow along for wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Okay. So again, with the thought of potentially trying to get Blake Fiddler, because I do think that is a very Mike Grier type of pick. He's a player who I was very interested in. And again, like as I did this thing over and over and multiple times, a guy who I did think would make a lot of sense for the San Jose Sharks. My problem was I didn't like kind of what happened afterwards. So the trade, let's kind of start with that, right? And if we did this a couple weeks ago of like what the Sharks might do with pick number 30, but just as a reminder, if the Sharks packaged pick 30 and pick 33 together, they could kind of get up into the late teens. And I thought 19 with the St. Louis Blues would make a lot of sense for a team that has traded away, they traded away a lot of picks, or not, they offer sheeted a lot of their picks this season. And if you're the Blues, maybe it makes sense to kind of move back a little bit and just try to get some more assets in the in this year's draft, right? So again, the Blues are pulling up their thing right now. They have their own first round pick, right? Then they don't have another pick again until the 5th round. So that's why I kind of targeted them, because the picks would make a lot of sense when it comes to value wise. I think it's pretty even. And then the Blues, again, they don't have a second, they don't have a third, and they don't have a 4th in this year's draft because they spent all those on offer sheets. So I did that trade, right? And kind of just as a thought exercise to see what would happen. So with the Sharks, right? Of course, I ended up getting Misa at number 2. I targeted Blake Fiddler with pick number 19, right? And I do think Blake Fiddler is going to be a really good player, and probably is a second line type of player or a second pairing type of player as he goes through this process and as where he ends up. But and then after that, the Sharks didn't pick again until pick number 53, which is the pick they got from the Sens in the Fabian Zetterlund trade. And there I ended up targeting Luca Romano. So Luca Romano is a forward from that's playing with the Kitchener Rangers. He's again kind of fits that Mike Grier type of profile of what I think he's looking for. He's ranked 40th in Elite Prospects rankings. He's 5'11", so 6 foot, 177 pounds, toolsy, detailed, do-it-all center. Continues to flash high-end skills as the season progressed, but will need to increase the frequency and efficiency of his play creation. He's right-handed, June birthday, so he's a little bit later type of birth, at least birthday, right? And we've seen Mike Grier draft a lot of these June babies if you're into birthday drafting, but he's a player who this year with the Kitchener Rangers in 67 games had 25 goals, 26 assists, so 51 points during that, and averaging 0.76 points per game on a very good Kitchener Rangers team. So, and I felt like, okay, like with that player, I think there's a role for him as to kind of, especially with as a toolsy player, to kind of fit into the pipeline as maybe a middle six type of player or a third line type of player for San Jose. So, and then like not picking again until pick 115, right? And you always try to pick the best player, but you don't want to kind of do what the Sharks did, I think, in the 2020 draft, where it's just like we're all going to pick forwards and stuff. But so I wanted to kind of go for another defenseman, right? Right. You feel like Misa's going to be a hit. You feel like Blake Fiddler, if you draft him at 19, like he's going to be an NHL player. And Romano, right, you're drafting for kind of tools there and see if he can kind of fill into a role as a middle of the second round pick. Peterson, I was fits what, so I picked Liam Peterson, Swedish defenseman, who sounds very familiar to some of the other defensemen that Mike Grier has picked. So he's playing with Vaho. So he's 6'2", 170 pounds, left-handed defenseman, lanky puck-moving defenseman with strong transition results and projectable set of feet, possesses intriguing upside, but it remains a raw and needs to tighten things up defensively. Kind of considers a transition ace. Like his vision is very good, but again, that raw. Did play a couple SHL games this season, but mostly on the J20 team where he had 6 goals, 15 assists, so 21 points in 39 games with for a 0.54 points per game played. So feels like a Mike Grier type of guy, right? He's got some size. He's going to have to bulk up, right, at 170 pounds, but he can skate well. Like there is some projectables, traits there. And then I picked Owen Martin, who was, spoilers, a name we're going to hear about more later, but I picked Owen Martin, with the Rangers pick that the Sharks got at 139, and I'll save him for a little bit. And then I picked Zeb Lidgren, another defenseman from Sweden, with their last pick in the draft here. So Zeb Lidgren is a 6'1", 195 pound left-handed defenseman, mobile defenseman with projectable physical tools and intriguing puck moving flashes, limited output concerns, kind of known for being evasive, and again, that toolsy type of characteristic for him. Played mostly, got some SHL games as well, played mostly in the J20 league, 38 games, had 4 goals, 15 assists for 19 points for 0.5 points per game as in his draft season here. So also a April birthday, so has a little bit more potential runway there. So when I did this, I ended up with 6 players here, but I kind of felt like I don't know. I felt like I was chasing a little bit, right? Especially as we're going to see when we do the final mock draft. I feel like there's a really nice pocket of players right where the Sharks do have those 2 picks very close to each other, the pocket players I really like. And again, I like a lot, some of these players here. And I think Blake Fiddler definitely has a higher floor and more likely is going to be an NHL player than some of the other people that I picked. But I felt like it didn't give me I'll say just that extra pick in that position of the pick didn't really give me the flexibility I was looking for. And I could have tried to move down, or kind of moved around the board a little bit some more. But I just felt like I was in weird pockets, if that makes sense, right? Weird pockets of where I'm picking and what I'm looking for in those picks. So while it would make sense, I feel like I like my final mock draft where I just stick and pick at 30 a lot better. So we're going to get to that here in just a second. my final mock draft, who I have the Sharks taking in the 2025 NHL draft. All right, before we get to my draft, I do want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast. There's no off season, bringing the daily league-wide stories that matter most with local coverage you love from Locked On. Find Locked On NHL on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. All right. So yeah, I really like my mock draft here. So let's get to it. I'm just going to show the bad boy because I think it's easier. So pick number 2, of course, Michael Misa. Pick 30, I went Henry Brzustewicz. Pick 33, William Moore. Pick 53, Charlie Trethewey. Pick 115 in the 4th round, goalie Mans Goose. Pick 139, I got Owen Martin of Ford, and pick 150, Tommy Lafreniere from the Blazers in the WHL. So let me kind of go through it here a little bit more. So at least some of my thinking, right? So Michael Misa, like that's easy. Like write that for me. Just write it in pen. The Sharks are picking Michael Misa unless Matthew Schaefer's there. So Misa, easy. Like that's your future second line center. He's going to be really good, guys. Like Michael Misa is going to be super awesome. So when it came to the pick 30, right, there was plenty of guys that I was kind of circling there. And I'll go through who was kind of available for me and then who I decided to pick. So so the guys kind of picked right ahead. 26 was Ravensbergen, the goalie. 27 was Milton Gastrin. This again via Scott Wheeler's draft. 28 was Bill Zahn, and that's the guy I was circling. If he was there, I would have been very happy to pick him. And then 29 was Colin Porter. So for me, it was Brzustewicz, and then there's a fair amount of forwards I like in that range as well. And I felt like I would rather just like, I really like Brzustewicz. I know he's got a lot of like, he's either like never going to be an NHL player or he's going to be really good. And there's a really long, like there's a big discrepancy between like the ceiling and the floor, but I took the swing. Right. And we know the Sharks have had eyes on Brzustewicz all season long because they've been watching Sam Dickinson and who's literally was Brzustewicz's partner for a majority of the season. You know, they've been watching Kasper Holsten. And so we know that they're going to know him very well. So I felt like if I picked a forward, and yes, it was only 2 picks, maybe the Brzustewicz might get picked. So I went with that strategy. Let me get the player I want because I know there's plenty of forwards I can take at 33, and there's plenty of players I can take at 33 that I really like. If one of them's not there, I can find somebody else. So that was my thinking with him. So of course I went William Moore, number 33 there. Moore does feel very much like a Mike Grier type of player. And like, again, I'm trying to kind of keep this in mind. So Moore, 6'2", 175 pounds, left-handed shot, that kind of elevator pitch from elite prospects, a skillful forward with a quick processor, hard shots, fluid hands, and an ever-improving physical game, middle 6 potential, but lots of development remains. Okay, that's cool. Like we know the Sharks, like they're not trying to win the cup tomorrow. A guy like William Moore, where you can let him go and kind of bake at school for a little bit, and really kind of finish out his game. And again, that raw, toolsy, smart type of player. I think and if he's a center or a wing, like in the middle 6, that's fine for San Jose. So so I went with that because again, I feel like he's going to be a bit of a project, but he does feel like a Mike Grier type of player right there. So, and then of course I picked Charlie Trethewey at number 53. So Trethewey is, we did a profile on him, but it's just as a reminder, he's a defenseman, 6'1", 200 pounds, right-handed shot, excellent skater with physicality, big shot and shutdown potential. Puck moving and reads improved throughout the season, but work remains. And great skater. Again, that raw type of thing. And when you're the Sharks, like, you can let these guys marinate and develop for a little bit here because of where the Sharks are at. So because of the upside. So for me, getting in my first 4 picks, Michael Misa, who you feel like is going to be a stud. Henry Brzustewicz, which has a lot of hit or miss potential. But if he hits, like, it's probably going to be really cool. You have William Moore, who's needs some development time, but is a raw toolsy player, and Charlie Trethaway, who fits the Mike Grier build of, what I think he looks for in defensemen, of good skaters who are physical. And again, going to need some development, and both those guys are going to be playing in college next year. Feels like Mike Grier picks to me. So, again, didn't have a 3rd-round pick, of course, because I personally traded that to the Dallas Stars. So in the 4th round, I picked Man's Goose, and I'm very much in the the quarterback approach of just take one every year. That's how I am with goalies, right? Just take a goalie every year because you never know. So especially in the middle of the rounds. 4th round picked Man's Goose, Swedish goalie, 6'5", 190 pounds, raw potential in an NHL sized body. And so Goose represents a lot of raw potential, 6'5" frame, NHL size, moves well enough to use it. He also has decent technical habits where he's able to maximize that size. Doesn't make himself small like some other tall goalies. These guys going to be playing over in Sweden for the next couple seasons. Like, I would be, again, you don't need him right now. And if he hits, that's just another player who I think for the Sharks, right? You're just taking swings on players, and especially for goalies, like I'm all for taking a goalie every year, even if you have an answer at goalie, right? That doesn't mean you take one high every year, but I think, and especially in this year, take one in the 4th round, see if he develops here. So the last 2 players I picked, Owen Martin. Owen Martin's one of my kind of circle type of players, especially in the mid rounds here. He is not the biggest guy. Like, he's got decent size, but he is a player who I think would fit. And when these type of 5th, 6th round, these types of picks here, you're looking for guys who can do something in the NHL, right? So he's 5'11", just under 6 feet, 185 pounds. Owen Martin playing with the Spokane Chiefs in the WHL. Late season riser, combines a detailed defensive game with transition and playmaking skills. If the tools take a step, he could surprise. So this is a defensive forward type of bottom 6 type of player who can, your hope is he is a ace penalty kill type of player, comes in, can help shut things down. And that is kind of his path to being an NHL player. Does have some scoring pop as well, and he missed some time with an injury this year, but 39 games, 13 goals, 21 assists, so he had 34 points in 39 games, so 0.87 points per game. I know, again, missed some injury time with some injuries this year, but defensively I think could be a nice piece for San Jose. And right, you're picking in the 5th round here. You're trying to find guys who have some sort of path to the NHL, right? And that's kind of where I with him. So, and then Tommy Lafreniere, another 5'11", 172-pound right-handed forward, playing with the Blazers in the WHL last year. A detailed net driving multi-position forward with endless motor. Skills the question, but he takes no shifts off. Motor versatility, this dude is going to play every shift, he's going to play hard. And again, maybe not the most skilled player, but you're looking for guys in the NHL, guys who could fit a role. And I think Lafreniere in the 5th round, he's going to he definitely has that dog in him type of player, which we know Mike Grier loves and covets. So, so again, that's my, as a quick reminder, that is my my draft. Michael Misa at number 2. I know we didn't talk much about Michael Misa. We're gonna do a whole Michael Misa deep dive episode next week, so don't worry, you'll get plenty of Michael Misa stuff. So Henry Brzustewicz at 30, defenseman. William Moore, forward, at 33. Charlie Trethewey, defenseman, at 53. Mans Goose at 115. Owen Martin at 139, and then Tommy Lafreniere at 150. So that is my mock draft. That's who I would pick in those positions. So we'll be back tomorrow to continue our simulated off season. We're free agency, and we're gonna keep tweaking this and messing with it until the last minute as we continue to get more information. Guys who may potentially resign, guys who may potentially be available, all that fun stuff. So this is the area. Well, I mean, I'm going to get a lot of stuff wrong, but this is the area where 100% going to get a lot of stuff wrong tomorrow. But as long as we have fun doing it. So make sure you're following along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at My Fry Hole. Until tomorrow. Bye, friends.